Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Today, episode 16.
Yes, sir.
Episode 16. So I think we were going to be talking about how it all started and just that journey and what that looked like.
You know, the craziest thing about how it all started is where we are now and some of the things that's been going on behind the scenes in the firm and in our family for this year. So we're going to be bringing on a marketing manager, a sales manager. There's a lot of growth in the firm, a lot of goals for the firm for 2026, a lot of big plans for the family. We'll be taking a trip to Africa in a couple of weeks. So just a lot of positive things going on.
Will we be
a
shooting
lot of
from
fun
Africa?
things. No, I didn't plan on it. I didn't plan on working in Africa at all. But I think it would be cool to have some type of live footage. I'm sure Daryl could do some things with that. The flight and just documenting the trip and just doing that journey. It would be fun to do a live from Africa.
Pass. We're going to be vacationing. But on another note, back on topic.
That would be fun.
Getting started. How it all started.
Yeah, the origin story. It's a question that people want to know a lot about. How did we originally get started and make the decisions to work together the first time, because this is our second time around working together, and how we decided to work together, and talk about that a little bit more in detail. Although it feels like I've talked about it a lot, but how did we decide to work together? I think a lot of people want to know that now, because in Atlanta where we are, there are a lot of entrepreneurs here, a lot. And a lot of couples open businesses together, they work together. And even if they're not working together, people are sharing space more together, where two people may work remotely on different things, but in the same home during the same work hours.
I think COVID opened the door for a lot of that. You either decided at that point in time, I like this person, I can work with them, or they were kind of along the lines of, I don't like this person, and it kind of fell apart from there. But COVID introduced a lot of people to that. But we were, way before COVID, we were, I guess, what was that, almost 20 years ago?
That was 2028, about 2008. 2008, we started working together. So how it all started, it was not by design. I think we kind of stumbled across it very indirectly. I didn't like my job. Charles, you liked your job. You were kind of happy where you were. You were at Verizon. You were at Verizon, and I was a prosecutor in Clayton County, then a prosecutor in Fulton County, and I didn't like my boss then, which was the elected DA, I'll just say that, of Fulton County. I did not like him as a person and thought that he had a lot to be desired. And so I decided to leave, and we made a couple small pivots, and I just realized I don't like working for other people. It's truly me. It's not them. It's me. And so I decided I needed to try something different. And in that process, I think we had some friends that had some legal issues, and they want to ask you a question, and someone asked me if I would help them with a legal issue. They had been arrested for something minor, but still, being a professional person, they didn't want it on their record. They didn't want to go to jail, so on and so forth. So that kind of sparked the interest there. And I think my last little short stop, let's call it pivot, for about, how long was I with Luzmina? Maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks at the longest.
It wasn't very long, 3 months tops.
Yeah, I don't even think it was that long.
I don't think it was that long either.
And then
we had a little situation that lended itself for you to leave when I got stranded in a snowstorm in New York and couldn't get back home, and that opened the door to I can do this myself, which I thought you could do yourself. You would come home, tell me what you were doing. I was like, you can do that. You can do that.
Yeah, but you be thinking I can do stuff that I can't do. You are supportive. I have to take your support and put a little layer of reality on it, because you would think I can sit on the Supreme Court next week, and I know better than that.
I don't think it could be next week, but I definitely think it's something that you could do if you put your mind to it and we work towards it. So no, I don't think you could do anything, but I think you can do most things if you put your mind to it. Now, if you said, hey, I wanted to be a professional wrestler, yeah, you could do it. I don't want that for you, so I'll have, in a different realm. That's not your lane, and that ain't what I want for us. But, if you wanted to do it, yeah, you could do that.
Well, I appreciate the support. I think you could do a lot of things too, but how did we come to this decision to work together? When we decided to work together, it was actually Charles' idea. It was truly, truly Charles' idea to, why don't you do that yourself? And I was a little hesitant at first. I was a lot hesitant. I did not have that kind of support and confidence about opening a firm. It was not my idea at all. That was your idea.
Yeah, but we came into a little bit of money, and I figured at the end of the day, I'd rather use that money investing in us than to go do the, I don't know another way to say it, but do the youthful thing of buy a new car. That was
And go shop and go on a trip.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing about it is we did not get a coach. We didn't have a plan. We sat together over the kitchen table a couple of evenings and decided what we were going to do. And to the extent that we knew how to plan for it, we planned for it. When I think back on the risk that we took and how little we knew when we started, it's crazy. It's crazy. But we found a location, like a real brick and mortar, eventually, because when we started, we didn't have an office. Like, it was truly a hustle.
At Barnes and Noble, Starbucks is the play right there. Although you may meet a lot of people at those places unintentionally, like, oh, we can have a small talk, and it's quaint enough, but it still lends itself for you to be able to have that appointment with somebody, and it serves the purpose. But we kind of threw some stuff at the wall and ended up coming into, again, because we started, I think, where it was just we were meeting people at the Barnes and Nobles and the Starbucks.
There and at the courthouse itself, in those conference rooms, law library.
In between cars, sharing a car to go to court and make those appointments, and me still driving across town to go to work. And then we kind of came into a financial situation where it kind of gave us a little bit more of a jump start, and
Charles got a settlement from a car accident. And when he got his settlement check, he decided to invest it in, let's open a firm and make this a little bit more official. Like, if we're going to do this, because we have been moving around, like you said, Starbucks and Barnes and Nobles or wherever we can meet clients at, just getting it started. But just seeing the progress and the momentum that we were gaining, even then, it was fast by our accounts because we had never done it. So let's lean into it. And we got an actual office, furniture, and a ad. We paid for some advertising.
In the Yellow Pages. And some of you may not know what the Yellow Pages is. That's crazy to think back. There was a phone book that came to people's houses, but we advertised in that. And online wasn't the biggest presence, but put some money behind that, and we went with it.
And that's kind of how we got started. I mean, developing every single system from the ground up was kind of crazy, and it was a lot of running ahead into the wall, a lot of long nights, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of just not knowing what we were doing, just knowing that we weren't going to give up, and this is what we had decided on. We leaned in, figured out what we were going to do by just talking to each other. Like, I didn't have a mentor. I had one or two people that were attorneys that I leaned on and asked them how to do things. Or if I needed a document, I would ask them, do you have a copy of this? Do you have a template for this? And a lot of it was just trial and error of defending the cases that I had prosecuted against.
But some of the benefit was, too, you had recently left one county, went to another county, and based on the level of work that you did there, a lot of people were very supportive on just that way that you had carried yourself in their courtroom and in the attorneys that you had met. So there were a lot of, now knowing that, those referrals were what carried the business, just based on the work and the relationship that you had with some of those other attorneys and judges.
That's true. I knew a lot of people in Clayton County and Fulton County from having been prosecutors there, and they did refer business, and I had developed a reputation for being an aggressive litigator.
No.
Really, really aggressive. Really? In the beginning, when we started, even when I was a prosecutor, Charles would come to all of my hearings, all of my trials, and even when we opened the firm, if I had a trial, specifically a jury trial, he would be there, non-attorney, sitting there coaching me and passing me notes, and it wasn't legal advice. It was more, slow down, you're talking too fast, I didn't understand
what
this.
You were talking about. And when she started tapping that pen on the table, you know you messed up, right? I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, ooh, I didn't catch it, but I know it's bad.
The judges, I had a judge, Judge Carbo in Clayton County, used to come and he used to counsel me after my trials and tell me points on how to be more professional, because I had to tell like a poker player. If I knew that I had caught a witness in a lie, I would wink at people when I was talking to them, not intentionally, but I would unknowingly wink. Like that left eye would just start twitching and winking, like, yeah, I got you, I got you. I got you. You know where this is gonna end, kind of thing. And so he taught me to slow down and be a lot more intentional and strategic in my questioning. I would stay after and poll the jury. I wanted to know what they thought, and so it was a lot of learning on the job, even after I left prosecution, and talking to who I classified as the old heads who did it. Charles Brandt, he spent a lot of time talking to me, helping me, showing me things, whatever. So it was just a handful of people that were very supportive and would tell me things.
And then she would come home and practice them on me. So the reason why you didn't get the dry cleaning was so tell me this. And yeah, some of that was working with your spouse and how that works out. Don't lawyer me. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah, every time we had a question, you thought I was lawyering you. If I asked you a question, I'm lawyering you.
Mm-mm. It wasn't when you asked me a question. I knew I could tell because the voice changed. And it would be like, so tell me this. Anytime so tell me this. That's the setup for the dunk. That's the alley-oop. No, you're not going to do it to me. I'm not telling you nothing. So
who suggested that we work together?
It was me. My thought process was,
you suggested we open the firm, and then you suggested that you join me in opening the firm and us working together.
My thought was, when we make it to be an old elderly couple and we sitting in our rocking chairs, not, playing with the grandkids or looking off into the sunset, I'm going to be spending a lot of time with you. And I would rather use some of this useful time to spend that time with you, get to know you better, because eventually we're going to get there anyway. So why not do it now while we're still young?
But we could have dated and did that. We didn't have to work together to talk to each other and get to know, continue. We're already married by now.
We are, but there's a lot of old people that I know that I won't say old, people that have retired. And now they're around their spouse all the time. They like, this blankety blank. I get on my nerves, always asking me what I want, wanting to talk to me. But if we establish this earlier on, then when we get to that age, it'll flow better. We'll be in a better place. So
you thought working together, I just want to clarify because I've never heard this before. You thought us working together would help our marriage?
In the long run, yeah.
Huh. I never knew that.
If I got to be around, the time that I'm going to
if I got to be around you.
If I got to be around you all the time, I mean, my thought was I'm going to be around you now a lot, or I'm going to be around you a lot later once we've slowed down. Well, I'd rather have some of your good years being around you, so this could only be a benefit. Because by the time we get to that retirement age, we'll be that further along to understanding each other and having less of the arguments and just be in a better place. So why not do it now? That was mine.
How did that work out?
How did it work out?
Yes. Do you think us working together?
We're still married, so I guess it worked out well. So I guess once we started working together, we each had a lane. I wasn't the attorney, so I couldn't go to court. So that was something that wasn't my thing. But the IT side of things and some of the keeping track of the things that we acquired, whether it was the printers and making sure that when she went to court, she had what she needed, whether it was a portable printer, whether it was having a business cell phone. Those were some of the things that I was responsible for. And I guess the things that we learned in that process is, what lane do you have and what lane do you have, and kind of trying to complement those things. So again, the example of the IT, I did that. The payroll, I kind of figured some of that out. That was a group thing, the bank, but then realizing, okay, well, we can do this with the bank, or we can do this type of transaction. Those were just some of the things I think we realized who had the strengths in this area and who had the weaknesses in this area. And we tried to let that person handle what they were good at.
I did the legal stuff, and Charles did mostly everything else. Like he said, Charles was all the finances, all the logistics, all of that type of stuff, definitely all the tech stuff. And it was, I agree, it was just more of a natural thing. I don't recall us ever sitting down and having a conversation about who's going to do what. It's when the
It
task
happened.
came up, it was just because we started dating in 2006 and we got married in 2007. By the time we opened up the firm, it's the tail end of 2008, and I we were just already in such a groove that if there was, and I'm busy, so if I'm in court,
I'm answering the phone. I'm the receptionist.
yes, but I'm just saying if it was okay, we need to open these accounts. You had the availability to do it, so you just did it because it was what needed to be done. We never really kept track of who's going to do what, and who has this role. It was the same way that it is in our marriage. There's no like, literally today I took out the trash. Charles was at the gym and he called and said, "Hey, I forgot to take out the trash. No worries, I got it." So it just, if it needed to be done, that
No,
person did it.
some couples, and when I called to ask you, it crossed my mind. Some couples or some women are going to be like, it's not my responsibility to take out the trash. That's a man's role. So I guess some of it is the keeping score of, hey, I did these 10 things and you only did 3. I don't think that's something that we ever had an issue with. It needs to get done. Who
Do
will
it.
get it done at that time? It's not well, that's not my lane. That's a man's job. Again, it crossed my mind. I was just thinking, like, I
Or
bet
a
there's
woman's
some women
job.
that would say, I'm not taking out the trash. The trash needs to go out. You're just walking it to the curb. But nonetheless, we didn't keep track. We didn't. One of the biggest, I guess, takeaways that I have learned, and it wasn't just then, is that you don't keep score. It's not always going to be 50-50. And I don't think that was anything that wasn't a hump that we needed to cross. It was, who can do it, and let's get it done.
I think because we have a blended family, it was always whoever could do it, with all things being equal. There were times that like even now with Tegan and Amara, Charles will give him a bath if I'm busy. There's no, okay, you're the female, so you do the child rearing, even for our granddaughters who are 1 and 2 years old. If he need to change him, he'll change him. If he need to give him a bath, he'll give him a bath. And if I'm doing something with the dog or doing something, whatever, if I'm not available, he'll do it. If he's not available, I'll do it. Like, I'll take our son to get a haircut, and whatever needs to be done, whoever is available to do it. So we didn't sit down and have a conversation about gender roles or task roles according to titles. But there are some things that Charles is just better at than I am. Finances is one of them. Technology is one of them. So we had clients, and then for safety, like doing criminal defense. I started in criminal defense before a family. We had a lot of clients that paid us in cash. So I felt more comfortable with them paying him than paying me. And so they would pay Charles, and he would just naturally grew into the person that people made payments to, give him the money, and he gave him a receipt. So some things just kind of grew naturally.
But some of them, I think it also lends itself to how you were raised and how you were brought up. And when you start to blend some of those things together, that's where the conflict, I guess, may arise in trying to put everything in a relationship in a box. Is going to add some conflict. If you're trying to put this role of the husband or the father in this box, then that's where you're going to run into issues where it's, normally you'll change the girl's diaper, but there's sometimes that's just not going to work. Or there's other situations where you allow me to lead. You try to encourage that, but at the same time, it doesn't always work that way. And I have to be okay in those situations and not cause an unnecessary argument or.
Yes, because there's going to be times where we walk in a room that people are going to ask for me because I'm the attorney. And it was not a situation where you ever had an issue with me being the lead or me making more money. There's no reason for you to have an issue with me making more money, because before we even got married, Charles' name was on my accounts. Like, we've shared accounts, and the money, trust with the money was never an issue. So,
but there are people that
I had cards for years that didn't have my name on it. Is my name on my car now? You see what I'm saying? Like, Charles knows more about cars. Charles go to the dealership. I don't like going to dealerships. I just know what I like, and then he will. Okay, well, here are some cars. Here are the options. Which one do you like? And then just take control of that. I didn't feel like my name needed to be on it. It wasn't a his or hers, this or that, or whatever. So that wasn't an issue. We had our issues for sure, but I'm just saying these were not our issues. There were definitely some growing pains around who made what decisions. If it was a decision that if it was a task that we shared and we had a difference of opinion about something, I think the person who argued the longest and the hardest, like who really cared, 9 times out of 10, you look that way, but 9 times out of 10, one of us didn't care about it at the same level. The house that we're in now, I argued and fought for this house because I wanted this house. I think you chose the last 2 houses that we had, and I didn't care.
But I didn't care about the choice that you made for this house. I didn't want to move. It feels different. We've moved enough that some people don't move this much. Moving once a year for the last 4 years?
I don't know if we moved once a year for the last 4 years, but I'm just saying, when we were dating, the first house that I bought after my divorce, you were a huge influence on that house. I wanted to stay in that location, but you were with me when I decided to purchase that house, and I purchased that house before we got married.
But I didn't mind what house you chose. I still felt like it was more of your decision, which, and I don't know that I would have.
A decision you heavily influenced, though.
I may have influenced, but it wasn't because it was a disagreement. You were just considerate and try to make things fair, and I appreciate that. And again, with each person, when they're saying, hey, how do you work your spouse? How do you do these things? There are other spouses that they might have a difference of opinions, and it might have changed how they work together. When it came to us sharing an account, we shared an account where other couples may say, no, my money is my money and your money is yours, or your money is my money too. That's something that y'all have to figure out, whether it's the underlying issue is trust, somebody's a bad spender, somebody has bad credit, or even when it came to the thing of a blended family, I think we were on the same page. It wasn't you do for your kids, I do for mine. It was we're doing for all of them the same. So
that's true, but we argued about money sometimes. But it wasn't who spent it. It was
how it was spent.
Charles likes clothes. And when I met him, I used to think the money that he spent on clothes and shoes was craziness. I just held to the no. Like, he would buy expensive clothes and shoes and all this stuff, and I just was never into clothes. I'm still not into clothes. And he is really into fashion, and I thought that was crazy. But on the other side, I collected like Ebony Visions, and he thought it was crazy that I would spend this money on a figurine
that you can't play with
or wear.
I'm not spending. I need to be able to interact with whatever that item is. Drive it, touch it, wear it, look at it. Oh, that's not good enough.
And I like to travel. And Charles' idea of a vacation was visiting some buddies or visiting some family, a road trip 6 hours away. No. Again, we're going to Africa in a few weeks.
But it took time to grow to these places. We didn't just come into it like, yeah, this is how it's going to be. Mm-hmm. It did take some time. And again, I didn't want to wait to be that old couple to be like, all right, now we're getting ready to travel. I ain't going nowhere, honey. You go by yourself. Now we all old, broke down, and the best years are behind us. So let's try to figure this out now so we can enjoy our youth together and grow. And by the time we get older, we can reflect like, you remember that trip to Africa? Or you remember that trip to China that we went to that was a hot mess and it was fun, but it was, I guess we were always, one of the things I guess that always helped for me is you always tried to be fair. And I could tell where that was coming from, even if I didn't agree. I don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but I can tell your intentions were good, although we may not have been seeing eye to eye. So it lended itself for us to be able to get to a point of, well, this is fair. If you choose this vacation, then I'm going to choose the next one. I can't necessarily argue. The budget's the same. I'm choosing this one. You choose the next one. All right.
But was there a moment in our relationship that you thought, okay, the risk or the opportunity was worth the attempt to work together? Like, what made you think that it was worth the risk to work together? Because you had a position at Verizon, and I could have very well found another position as a prosecutor or some other opportunity to work for someone else, where we had careers that had opportunities, growth opportunities, placement, all of that. When did the idea, we started out because someone asked, Tessie, can you help me with this? And then it kind of grew from there. But you were still at Verizon initially, and I was still piecing it together and had applied for other positions. But somewhere in the interim, we decided, okay, this is actually a thing. And when you think back on it, what was the opportunity? What about that opportunity or the risk that either scared you or encouraged you to say, okay, it's worth it to leave Verizon?
The truth?
Yes.
It's not deep. It was just, all right, let's try it.
Yeah.
That was it. The second time that I came back, it was a lot more thought. The first time, I didn't know what I didn't know to consider. I was still new in my career. A lot of jobs that I was taking on at that point were entry level. So it was, well, look, I got this large sum of money. We at least can pay the mortgage for a little bit while we figure some of these things out. And it was just that. When we get old, we're going to be around each other. We're young. We might as well figure it out now, so we'll be better then. Mm-hmm. The second time.
The second time is we worked together. Thought. No, I'm saying we worked together for a few years, say 4 or 5 years, and then you went to the fire department for about 10 years, and then you came back in 2020. So you've been back almost 5 years now. Mm-hmm. So what was the risk or consideration that you thought of during COVID that made you decide to try it again? What was the opportunity that you considered or the risk that you considered?
The biggest thing is what I guess took it over the hump. One, we kind of had a test trial run where when I was on bed rest from the foot surgery, mm-hmm. the business, I guess, thrived with both of us working back in it, and it gave you the opportunity to do some other things. And
it thrived a lot. That's an understatement.
It showed me, okay, well, there is a position for me here, which I never thought that it wasn't. My biggest thing was if I'm doing 96-hour work weeks and 120-hour work weeks to work for somebody else.
Not work weeks.
Or pay periods. They were pay periods. There were 24 on, 4 days off. So I'm putting in all this time, and just because I'm off 2 days, I'm still putting in time to this position for someone else. And I'm working this hard. Why wouldn't I put the same amount of time into something that we have? That was the biggest turning point of all of it. Was I might as well be doing this for us. If I'm going to be up at night in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning and doing all these things, it might as well be for my family. Because when I leave here, fire department's going to go on. They're not going to miss a beat.
But do you remember whose idea it was the second time? Was it your idea or my idea the second time?
It was your idea and the coach's idea.
It was.
And I wasn't with it.
At all.
I was not. No, I was moving in the direction that I felt like career-wise. I knew that if I left.
What was your position there then?
I was a lieutenant. Mm-hmm. And I think I was on the short list to get promoted from there.
To what?
To a lieutenant or a captain.
You were already
a captain or a chief. Mm-hmm. At that point, when I made sergeant, it was like every year and a half, 2 years, I was getting promoted to the next position, as well as I was training for the captain position when I was in that lieutenant position. And there was a lot of movement and things changing in the department where I saw the room for growth. And it was stable. And, being an entrepreneur, you don't always necessarily know what you're going to make. We have an idea and you can project and you can forecast, but it's different when somebody else is responsible for your check. So it ended up being one of those things that, too, there were disagreements and there was a lot of maturing that I had to do from the first time and the second time when I decided to go back to the firm. Being able to deal with the constructive criticism that you have and not always wearing it on my sleeve and feel like you were attacking me was something that I knew that I needed to be able to deal with and not take it to heart, because again, your intentions meant well. It was, but also being in a place that I could communicate with you. The delivery, we need to work on that. I understand that you are trying to get from A to B, but the way that you address it, this is how I need it to be communicated to me.
It was a huge learning curve because where you left the firm in what year was that?
There was some financially the firm had did better, but it still wasn't the same as at that year later when we worked together.
But I'm saying that the firm, a lot had changed by the time that you came back. Things were different. Now you would help out here and there, but you weren't submerged. You weren't in like you weren't working a full day. You were helping out kind of behind the scenes still with the financial pieces or the tech pieces, but you weren't working an 8-hour day in the firm. You would still go to trial with me, but that was in the courtroom. You weren't again in the firm. At the time that you came back to the marriage, to the firm, we were arguing a lot in our marriage. It was a lot. It was a huge transition period. We had children going away to college. We were in the process of moving and buying a house on Warren Way.
We had went from 7 to 1.
It was
7
cold
to 2.
too. We had a new baby at home. We had started that over, which we had never really experienced
Together.
we went through IVF, had a child. Well, we did the IVF process and lost a child, and then had a child. Yeah, this is why we were working separate. But I'm just saying we did IVF, got pregnant, lost a child, had a child. Other children are graduating, and so now we have a baby who was a young toddler. Like, it was a lot of stress on our marriage and our communication at that time. And then COVID hits and the world shuts down and we're kind of together. Charles had a foot surgery and he's at the house. I mean, he comes with me to the office. And while you're at the office in that 2 months, 3 months time, the income in the firm exceeded how much you made in a year in the 2 to 3 months that you were there. So if we were at whatever, 100,000, Charles being there in that 3 months made, because I think your salary then was like 68,000.
Something, and
you
it ended
increased. You made more than 68,000. You bought an additional more than 68,000 in those 3 months, and I was like,
and I remember it was a fluke because I was on bed rest and I was going stir crazy, but I couldn't walk, so I'm trying to get on the lawnmower so I can do something and drive around the yard. She's like, okay, look, by the time you get home, I'm in pain, trying to take pain medicine. So
he would get on the floor and army crawl around. Like, you would just not sit still, re-injuring your feet.
I couldn't do it. You want somebody to sit. It's a special place in my heart to be able to sit still for hours on hours. That's just not me. So when you said, all right, you need to come to the office, that's the only way that I can keep an eye on you. All right, well, what do you need me to do while I'm sitting here?
Yeah, so I literally went and bought a lazy boy sofa that reclines so he can keep his feet up. And while you're sitting there not moving, can you help out with these things? And just having that extra person, that extra set of hands, hiring or borrowing another person in the office to help with some of the smaller tasks freed up my time to do other things. And me having time to take on more clients, to do more consultations, to open more cases, we made more additional income during his 3 month, 2.5 month, 3 month bed rest than he made in a whole year as a fireman. And that's when my coaches, my business coaches, suggested that he join the team and do that full time. And Charles was not having it. No. I put all this time and energy and effort, got these licenses and all this stuff, and he wanted to stay at the fire department. And then we went back and forth with it a bit. And then I agreed with you. I agree. Maybe we should not work together because we would argue a lot. And then you flipped it and said you thought that it would be a good idea. Well, you make that face. I see your little face. Look, no. I thought it was going to be a bad idea because I thought it would be great for the business, but it may have been bad for our marriage.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. But for what I was telling, the reasons that I was saying, you kind of started to agree. And the reason that you were saying, I agreed with you. And it was that first month you called me, said, yeah, we didn't we made what we were supposed to, but we didn't make that surplus as when you were
Oh, you
here.
mean when you left?
Right.
Oh, the first month
And I
you
was like-
left.
I said, oh, it's babe, you got it. I'm still like, nah. So then she called me the second month. She's like, yeah, we didn't do it again. Well, by then I've been toiling over it, thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I guess it's time for me to leave. Well, no, wait. We can figure something out. Nah, you didn't. I kind of had made my decision.
And I had already agreed with your decision. You
that I
said
was
no.
coming back.
No, we were talking, and you said no. I'm not coming back. I don't think it's a good idea. And I kind of put that baby to rest. And then the next month, like, okay, well, these are the numbers for last month when you had returned to work. Yeah, we're back to where we were before you came. And then month 2 came. We're consistently back to where you were. We were back to where we were before you came. Some of it was having an extra person. I don't think that it would have just been any extra person, but having when you left, hiring an employee to replace you would have closed some of that gap. Having you is what filled the full gap. Just because it was you and you knew me, and like you kept telling our coaches, I've been telling my wife the whole time, because he would make referrals and talk about the business. Being very clear, selling my wife. That's what you said.
Legal
I thought it was-
services as an
I
attorney.
know.
That was a whole nother conversation that I thought about when you said that from the other night.
Last night. But we switched roles, and then he thought it was a good idea, and I didn't think it was a good idea because I thought we would argue and it would cause some strain in our relationship. And a lot of people, when he started talking to his friends and colleagues about it, there was a lot of opinions about whether we should work together. Family members had some opinions
I
about
don't never
whether
really
we
give a
should
damn
work.
about everybody else's opinion. I mean, it's an opinion. Especially if I didn't ask you, I really don't give a damn about what the. You can keep that to yourself. I didn't say that to him, but that's how I feel. I value her opinion, and for those that I ask, it's warranted. But if I didn't ask you, I don't want to know.
Oh, he's so serious about that.
No, it
Like
was.
in a real way.
So I had thought about it and been telling my wife for years, and we were kind of getting over some of the highs and lows of marriage, and I was just like, at this point where we are, it's all in or nothing. So let's go and see what happens.
But when did you get to the point you thought this might work, us working together? Like, when did it click, like, okay, this might actually work?
When I said I'm gonna come work with you. When I said I'm gonna come work with you, this might work. And
But was there the point that you realized, oh, it's actually working well? We are gaining momentum.
never-
and we're successful.
I never thought that it wouldn't have worked. My reserve was in, are we going to be arguing a lot more? That was it. It was never
About what?
Hypothetically, if we were to, like, let's say that the marriage didn't work, I always felt like we would be able to work together. It was just, how is our relationship going to hold up? So was it ever a question of, would this work? No, I thought it would work. Would it cost us our marriage in the process of it working? How did that look? Because before, when we worked together the first time, it was, okay, you have these 3 documents that you need to file, and you're telling me you need to do them in this order. But if they all end up in the envelope at the same time, what are we doing? Why are we arguing about?
So those were little things, but I'm just saying.
But those were the things that I was considering, like, okay, but when we have similar situations to this, how is that going to look? Because they to me, those arguments were somewhat heated, and I understand the importance of those documents, but just understanding one another better to be able to communicate, look, I see your point, or acknowledging my point, me acknowledging your point, and how we're going to be able to get through those. As long as we could get through that, I felt like it was going to be, the relationship was going to be fine. But us working together, no, I never thought that we couldn't work together. It was how
I just want to correct one thing. You said you thought that if we worked together and the marriage didn't work out, you always felt like we could work together.
Not saying that we would continue to do that, but I felt like we always
wouldn't.
could work. I feel like we could always. We wouldn't. I agree.
We would
wouldn't.
not.
We probably wouldn't talk for a while. So working together wouldn't have that wouldn't have worked out. But I'm just saying, I felt like we can always work together. Whenever we put our mind together to do something as a team, we figured out, look, I'm going to do this part, you're going to do this part, and we get that part done. Now, the communication in the interim, that's always the sketchy part. Like, where'd you put the nails at? Well, you were supposed to do. I told that.
Okay, so what would be your advice to a couple that was considering opening a business together, and they're sitting at home and they're thinking, me and my spouse, my partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, we're going to be living together and working together. What would be your biggest piece of advice? What do you think you would have wanted to know?
So I guess the biggest takeaway is that I can say is not to keep score. You just don't keep scores. It's not always going to be fair. You also want to be willing participants, meaning I'm okay with accepting this role, and I don't always have to be in the limelight. You have to be comfortable with switching those roles where this one's going to lead and the other one may lead.
I think that's important for gender roles too, not just the lead and who's going to follow, but being willing to switch up and do what needs to be done, whether it's chores, because if you're working together and living together, you will have to blur those lines to get what needs to be done.
And you can't let your ego get in the way of respecting that other person's strengths and your weaknesses. And that's going to kind of come into full circle.
We definitely have different strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm.
That part, and you have to be willing to take a risk. I'm gonna try it. So, I mean, you're both gonna have to be willing to try some of those things out. I have no problem if you say, well, let's try it. Let's go for it.
I'm a little bit more of a planner before we take a risk. You take a risk and say, okay, let's try it. And I'm going to say, okay, let's do a little bit of planning before we take the risk. You're always supportive and ready to go. If I say let's, you say go. But before I take a risk, I want to assess it a little bit, do a little bit of planning before it.
But I think that also lends itself to your mindset. That's one of the biggest things. If you believe that the two of you can do it, then you can. That's half of all of it. If I don't think that we can do it together, we've already failed. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I married you thinking that we're going to be the best version of a couple and we're going to be able to move forward and conquer the world if we put our mind to it. So if you say we can do it, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to fly the plane in the air and figure it out.
I agree with that. I think you absolutely have to give the other person the benefit of the doubt. For me, giving you the benefit of the doubt and believing in us is two different things for me. If I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, to me, that's more of knowing that you can accomplish tasks. If I say, hey, we need to renew our insurance and Charles is going to take care of it, it is completely off my to-do list. I'm not going to micromanage. I'm going to know and assume and give you the benefit of the doubt that you're going to do it, do the research, choose the right company, make sure the bill is paid, set up on auto pay, and do all of that. That for me is not believing in us. The way that I believe in us is next level, and it's not giving you the benefit of the doubt to do small tasks to make sure that we're moving the needle to get things done. The vision and the goals and what I see for us in the future is a deeper level. But at the end of the day, I really do believe that we can do whatever we set our minds to do, and it sounds very cliche, but I believe it to be true, and so it is. If you guys have any questions or comments, or you guys are working together or in a relationship where you guys live together, share the same space, or opening a business together, give us your opinion. What's your advice? I'm very interested to know what was your biggest lesson in building a business with a partner or a loved one.
Because I would always want to know what got you through or what things helped you with working with your spouse. If I can learn something from you, definitely drop it in the comments. I would love the opportunity to try it here. We don't have it all figured out. And again, I said earlier, we're still sometimes flying the plane and learning how to do it while it's in the air. So if you have something that you feel like was helpful or beneficial in your relationship, please share that.
Please share.
Wow. That bad.
But I'm just saying, I always want to know what someone else learned. What did you if you could look back and like, oh, this is what I did that made it harder for me. What could I have done different? Like,
Agreed.
share. We can support each other. This is definitely a journey. So we both. It's a very collaborative relationship between us, and we would like to invite you guys into that too. So if there's any advice that you have that help you guys, the do's or the don't do's, again, please share.
And if time or the situations work out, we may even reach out just to collaborate or talk to you about something. So, would love the opportunity to get your thoughts.
Like, follow, share. Talk to you later.